What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a video on how to argue. Again, I've done probably little small snippets of arguments and stuff like that. And I never truly got in depth with it because me, I don't really like argue. I like to say my point and like cutting it off and just letting it be. But this time I feel like, depending on how interesting the video is, we'll get real deep into it and actually have a conversation on it. Shout out to the channel Big Think. First time reacting to the channel. I'm showing love to them, so go show some support to them. And the title says Harvard negotiator explains how to argue. Then Shapiro. Let's get into it.
I feel uncomfortable around conflict.
Now we're here today to find out how to argue.
But conflict is useful. The question is, how do you deal with conflict most effectively? Here we go. I am author of Negotiating the Non-Negotiable: How to Resolve Your Most Emotionally Charged Conflicts. Have you found yourself in an argument that felt so frustrating, so at a core aggravating?
That's the silliest opinion I've ever heard.
It felt just non-negotiable. Well, congratulations, you're a human being. We all experience conflict in our lives. And seeing what's going on in our world today, my hunch is you were probably having at least one of these conflicts about politics. Our country has fallen into what I believe is a tribal trap. Anything that other side says, I shall not believe, I shall not give any credibility to, and I'm going to do everything I can to prove I'm right, you're wrong.
I have an understanding of that. Having when it comes to politics, I don't really want to get too in depth, but when it comes to politics, people say what you want to hear. The side you on, they tell you what you want to hear. Whether it's left or right, blue or red, whatever it is. But you have to understand that, you know, if somebody wants to win, they would say what they want you to hear or what you want to hear. That's what they will tell you. So I would have the understanding of that, right? Because they would say what you might believe, what you want to think, what you want to believe in. That's what they will tell you, so you can vote for them, so you can be a part of their party. You have to understand it is a level of manipulation in a way that they would convince you to vote for them or be a part of their party, right? It's not always, how can I say that? It's not always the it's not always about them being right. It's not about being right. It's about selling the story or selling the message good enough so you could vote for me. So you can be a part of my party. And that's what it is, and that's what it's always been. Because actually both of them are the same thing. None of them are truly different. Both of them take part in the same thing. They just have different representatives to present to you so you could believe that it's different when in actuality it's really not. So take notes.
And to stifle you down, to raise me up. The problem is not with the what. What are we arguing about? The problem was with the how.
How should we argue?
How can we be more effective? And what I've found is that there are three big barriers that we can actually overcome to have more effective conversations. The big things: 1, identity; 2, appreciation; and 3, affiliation. Let's start with identity.
Now, first of all, this is a hot issue.
Why do we get so emotional in these conflict situations? It often goes back to something deeper: identity. What are the core values, the core beliefs that are feeling threatened inside of you as you're having that conversation with the other side? The moment your identity gets hooked in these conflicts, all of a sudden your emotions become 100 times more powerful. Boy, this is a wholly different conflict now. It's now your pride. Your sense of self is on the line. You need to know who you are and what you stand for. What are the values and beliefs that are driving me to fight for this stance on this issue?
And one thing I've come with, arguments, like the minute emotions get in the way of it, is like now the control you could have, you start losing it because you basing everything off how you feel. And understand that feeling you have in that moment is not gonna last forever because eventually gonna come back to your normal mind and have a reason, you know, on the thinking, on the thing, even the things that you say. So understand that you have to see, you have to pinpoint at the things that make sense. You have to point it out. Okay, so why am I arguing? What caused me to get into this argument to the point where I'm getting so emotional? I'm shouting, you know, cursing and doing things outside myself that I wouldn't normally do if I wasn't that emotional. You have to understand that what caused it to get to that point, right? Is that necessary of like, oh, but somebody said this and that to me? It's like, okay, well, they said this, but it triggered me in such a way that made me react in the way I'm reacting right now towards them. But you have to know you have to break things down and make it make sense. I like to when like to argue even with my lady. I don't I truly, and sometimes it would get out of hand, but I would realize and say, okay, hold on, this is getting too far. It's getting out of hand. I realize, well, the woman is emotional already. So me getting emotional will not really help the problem. All that will do is prolong it instead of me understanding, okay, I'm a man and she might said something I don't like. And I tell her, well, you did this and that and I didn't like it. And I understand that my reaction to that may not be what you wanted, but understand that I was wrong for what I did. But you doing that did not have me in a good mind frame to where I could give you a good response. So that's why my reaction to what you say to me or what you did to me was so rude and disrespectful towards you is because you did something that doesn't sit well with me. And I realize a lot of times if you actually have conversation, if you actually sit down and have conversation with your partner, your friend, or somebody did you wrong, you talk to them and tell them what you did, this wasn't right. If you understand that you keep a low tone and you talk to them like a regular person, you don't get mad. You don't start cursing. You don't get disrespectful. You talk to them like a regular person. That's what you did to me was just wrong and I didn't like it. But that's why I gave you the reaction I gave to you. That wasn't my intent to give you that reaction, but what you did to me hurt me deeply. So the reaction I gave, that was a result of what you did. I'm not saying, you are a bad person. I just didn't like it. Right. So moving forward, I feel as it's something we shouldn't do. We shouldn't take part in. Right? Especially if we're gonna be together for a long time. And when I tell you a lot of things like that break down a lot of the argument and the shouting and the disrespect, you know. Break it down like that is gonna be way much easier for you to just deal with the problem head on. Instead of it prolonging and becoming a big problem.
The more you understand who you are, the more you can try to get your purpose met and stay balanced, even when the other threatens those core values and beliefs. Each side wants to feel appreciated, and yet the last thing they want to do is to appreciate the other side. That's a problem.
Listen and understand.
When you're in the midst of the conflict, don't talk. Take the first.
Understand and one thing I've come to realize is, a lot of times I'm a very rational person, I think of things in depth and I break it down. So instead of being so quick to speak, I would sit down and listen. But I would listen to solve the problem. I wouldn't listen just to listen. I would listen to solve the problem, right? Or even sometimes I'd realize that I would listen just to speak back and give a response. No, no, no. Sometimes you just have to pull back fully and just sit back and listen and take in notes, right? That's what it's about, right? It's about pulling back and understanding, okay, let me allow that person to speak. Let me allow to see where they coming from. They part of the story, right? And then we could have a reason. We could have an understanding. We come together and we can see, okay, what can we do so we can fix this problem that we having right now? Again, it's not easy. I'm not saying that's easy to do because it's never that easy to do. We have to understand that self-control, right? Control over yourself and having, you keeping your composure. That's what it's about. It's not about rambling on a question and going back and forth. It's not about that. That's childish. We want to come together and understand each other and understand, okay, I probably stepped out of line right there. And I apologize for that. Well, it wasn't my fault, but the reaction I gave was something you did and I didn't like it, right? And that's what it is. And if you understand, if you can admit when you're wrong, I feel like a lot of times it's gonna stop a lot of the BS. I'm not gonna lie, honestly.
10 minutes, consciously listen to the other side. What's the value behind their perspective? What's the logic, the rationale? Why do they hold this perspective on immigration or healthcare? Once you truly understand and see the value in their perspective, let them know, I hear where you're coming from. And you know what? That makes sense. There is nothing more in the world that we like than to feel appreciated. Recognize your power to appreciate them. Third, affiliation. What's the emotional connection like between you and the other side? We typically approach these conflict situations as me versus you. My opinion on healthcare versus yours. My party's perspectives on immigration versus yours. That's just going to leave the two of you like rams butting heads.
Find common ground.
Turn that other person from an adversary into a partner. So it's no longer me versus you, but the two of us facing the same shared problem. Ask the other person, look, what's your advice on how we can get as many of our interests met at the same time? Change the nature of your conversation. Now you put these three things into practice, it can transform your relationships. Imagine what would happen if we started a revolution, but a positive revolution of greater understanding, greater appreciation, greater affiliation, how we could transform politics, how we could transform our country and ultimately our world. I believe it's possible, but it starts with each one of us.
You know what? That's so real because you know a lot of times we get into like meaningless arguments with people. I mean, random people. Where just because we disagree on something. Understand that if you disagree with somebody, there's nothing wrong with having your own point of view. But understand if you hear somebody out first. A lot of us like to speak and only one our side to be heard and our side to be addressed, not knowing that people else might want their side to be addressed too, right? They might want to be heard too, right? So the best thing for you to do is sit down and be a student and listen, right? Just because you disagree with somebody, that doesn't mean you just push them away and say, I don't want to hear what you have to say. No, listen to them. Let them say their story. Let them say their side, right? Let them hear out their opinion, right? Just to see, okay, where they stand. Then like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I see why you have your point of view. I see why you have your opinion. Then you can say, well, I don't fully agree with that, but that's where I stand. You present yourself. And that's what it's about. It's about getting to the common ground. That doesn't mean we have to have the same belief. Having an understanding of each other, having an understanding of who you're talking to and why they have that stance. That's what it's about, people. It's not about going back and forth. It's never been about that, right? But I don't want to ramble on too much and get too in depth. I just wanted to make this video for the people who do struggle and who want to, just get better in general. But that's the end of the video. If you like the video, leave a like, comment, and I will see you in the next one. Peace and love.